So in this video, I want to talk about the common pitfalls that actually affect startups and things that you should avoid. This is based on my personal experience over the last 10 years involved in different startups. There's been ups and downs and facing myriads of challenges. If you're new to this channel, my name is Alfred. I like to talk about lessons that I've faced, books that I've read, lessons that I'm picking from them, productivity guides and all that. So if you're into that, then definitely consider subscribing to this channel. When you have an idea, you always believe it's a great idea. In fact, no one can actually pull you out of it in terms of telling you it's not a good idea or not. Most of the time, your mind convinces you that it's a great idea. What I want to offer you or give you today is actually things that I've learned across 10 years, mistakes that I have made that you should avoid, and hopefully you can take your idea from a concept to reality and navigate these challenges that I've faced. So the first thing that I've actually faced is actually doing mental calculations, bad mental calculations. And this is not a problem, actually, because that's how the mind works. You're sitting in a sofa, just daydreaming, or maybe you're on a train ride, daydreaming. Suddenly an idea comes into your head. Let's say you're trying to sell a merchandise like t-shirts, for example, and you imagine that you will probably have costs of $5 and probably sell it at $10, and on top of that, in 5 months you'll be able to break even, and maybe in 1 year probably you'll be a millionaire. Forget about that. Most of the time, mental estimates are, in an ideal world, they are wrong. I have made so many mistakes. I can imagine so many mistakes based on that. One is that you imagine probably in your head that within 3 months your business will be flying and you'll be doing well and all these kind of things. That is impossible. So what I want you to really avoid today is believing those mental estimates. They are actually very, 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 very dangerous, and they're the first ticket downhill for your business. What you need to do is actually, once you've come down, sort of written your estimates, I would advise you actually is to triple your estimates. So let me give a good example. If you're imagining that you will break even in 6 months, I would urge you to plan your cash in such a way that you would probably break even between 12 to 18 months. And that's more of a reality because no business is the same. They're very different, and then everything keeps on changing. The world is so dynamic that information changes every time. I mean, you get so many inputs coming into the business from outside world and also from inside, whether it's from your employees or from your customers. So there's so many things that are changing. And that's why what you always dream or imagine is actually in the ideal world, in your mind. So I would really urge you, whatever you're doing, whatever business you're planning, please avoid the falling into the trap of believing your mental estimates, because that's one way you will just go down immediately. The second point that I have seen is you have to start small. Whether you're starting a YouTube channel or whether you are trying to start any kind of business, don't buy top of the range stuff. Don't buy the best machine or the best camera or the best logistics vehicle. That's the wrong way to spend your cash. In fact, let your business guide you or your customers guide you of where you need to take your investment. And here's the point. Your customers actually are the ones to guide you. For example, sometimes you may think that the most important part of your business is this machinery. But in the real sense, the most important part could be your logistics, right? And most of the time, it's actually the customer who guides you. So if you start with the bare minimum in terms of, so that you could actually save that cash, so that you could be able to see or where the customers are guiding you to invest. If you're operating a restaurant business or planning to have a restaurant business, perhaps it's important to start with one cooker for your kitchen. Then thereafter, If there's big demand for your service, invest in the second cooker. But sometimes, for example, you could be investing in a restaurant delivery business, but you think that the cooking is more important than the delivery. But you will find that you're stretched more on the delivery side rather than stretched more on the kitchen side. So I would urge you, let your customer guide you where you need to invest. Another challenge that I have faced is, and I have to tell you the truth, this is a fact. You will always make the wrong hires. And that's a fact. It's normal and it's just human nature. When you're interviewing someone, most of the time you will find that apart when you're going interviewing, going through the CV, you actually trusted more, you're actually going for more on the emotional side. And it's very difficult to judge someone on just a one-on-one chat. The reality of how good or bad someone is when you start working with them. So never be afraid to make mistakes in terms of hire, because that's what will happen. But what I would advise you is give yourself a buffer and use it as a corrective mechanism. If you see that someone is not performing as how you want, please take the immediate action or plan to bring in a new staff who will shadow, or probably remove that person and bring in a new person. Never be afraid to change hires or bring in a new staff, because if you don't do that, one of the things that I've seen is you burn out. Two, you probably lose money a lot in terms of, for example, one of your staff could be doing the wrong thing and therefore sort of mess up your business. So I would advise you is, one, if you notice that, please go ahead and correct that. Never be afraid, though, to hire. Another thing about hiring staff that I have faced, and I think it's very important, when you're starting out, there's always a temptation to pay more salary. Yes, there's always a temptation to pay more salary. You think someone is so good that hey, let me pay more, probably because this person is so good. Eventually, what you discover is that your business is bloating in terms of salary costs. And correcting this takes time, because then you have to fire people or see how to cut costs, or probably ask people to take a pay cut, which is very, very difficult. So if you are able to plan your salary costs, and so that when you're hiring someone, never have a range of in terms of what you want to pay someone, and don't go above that just because of emotion or the fear of losing out. Actually, what it does affect is more of your business, and you will notice this probably 6 months down the line when you're trying to cut costs. All of a sudden, your business has huge costs, and you're looking at the numbers and you're trying to figure out where the problem is. So in terms of hires, I've mentioned is never be afraid to hire, because you always make mistakes about that. And two, watch out in terms of the salary figures that you, especially in the beginning. Another thing that I want to tell you that I have seen also is business is tough. No business is the same. Today, if your friend has a restaurant, say a Chinese restaurant, and you go and set up the exact restaurant next to that business, I assure you those two businesses will face two different dynamics. What I ask you to do is actually to stay in the game. Persevere through the ups and downs, because when you stay in the game, opportunity will always come to correct your mistakes and continue sort of refining your business until you are able to get the right optimum way in terms of your performance. So in terms of summary of what I have said, when you go through your business or you're trying to look at things that you should avoid, number one, again, is start small. Never forget that. Start small. Always think small. Save that money for the future. Two, whatever you have in terms of your estimates, I ask you to look at the worst case scenario. Triple your estimates. Triple your break-even point. So look at, if you're thinking it's 6 months, then make sure it's 12 to 18 months. The last thing is stay in the game. No, that's not the last thing. Stay in the game. And the last thing is always know that you will make wrong hires, and that's not a bad thing. If there's anything that I've missed out or challenges that you've faced in your business, hey, why not drop me a comment or down below? And yeah, let everyone know the challenges that they could face. My business could be facing different challenges than what you would face. So I'd love to hear that. Till then, see you next time. Bye.